Let's take a look at my top 10 works by James Tissot. I found his work just beautiful. My first time seeing a work by Tissot was at the Speed Museum. Even better in person, so we are off to take a look and learn more about Tissot. See you on the other side.
The Sunday Painter. Please click and subscribe, hit the like button, and don't forget the little bell so you will be the first when we have an inspirational idea.
Jacques-Joseph Tissot (1836–1902) was a French painter and illustrator. A successful painter of Paris society before moving to London in 1871, then became famous as a genre painter of fashionably dressed women shown in various scenes of everyday life. He also painted scenes and characters from the Bible. Tissot traveled to Paris to pursue an education in art. While staying with a friend of his mother, painter Élie Delaunay, Tissot enrolled at the École des Beaux-Arts. The majority of Tissot's studio education, and the young artist studied on his own by copying works at the Louvre, as did most other artists of the time in their early years. Around this time, Tissot also made the acquaintance of the American James McNeill Whistler, and French painters Edgar Degas, and Édouard Manet. Tissot was working as a caricaturist for Thomas Gibson Bowles, the owner of the magazine Vanity Fair, as well as exhibited at the Royal Academy. Tissot arrived with established social and artistic connections in London. Tissot used the name Coed in Vanity Fair from 1869 to 1873. Tissot quickly developed his reputation as a painter of elegantly dressed women shown in scenes of fashionable life. Paintings by Tissot appealed greatly to wealthy British industrialists during the second half of the 19th century. During 1872 he earned 94,515 francs, an income normally only enjoyed by those in the echelons of the upper classes. In 1874, Degas asked him to join them in the first exhibition organized by the artists who became known as the Impressionists, but Tissot refused. He continued to be close to these artists, however. Berthe Morisot visited him in London in 1874, and he traveled to Venice with Édouard Manet at about the same time. He regularly saw Whistler, who influenced Tissot's Thames River scenes. In 1875, Tissot met Kathleen Newton, a divorcee who became the painter's companion and frequent model. He composed an etching of her in 1876 entitled Portrait of Mrs. N., more commonly titled La Frileuse. She gave birth to a son, Cecil George Newton, in 1876, who is believed to be Tissot's son. She moved into Tissot's household in St. John's Wood in 1876 and lived with him until her death in the late stages of consumption in 1882. Tissot frequently referred to these years with Newton as the happiest of his life, a time when he was able to live out his dream of a family life. After Kathleen Newton's death, Tissot returned to Paris. A major exhibition of his work took place in 1885 at the Galerie Sedel-Mayer, where he showed 15 large paintings in a series called La Femme à Paris. Unlike the genre scenes of fashionable women he painted in London, these paintings represent different types and classes of women, shown in professional and social scenes. The works also show the widespread influence of Japanese prints, as he used unexpected angles and framing from that tradition. He created a monumental context in the size of the canvases. Tissot was among many Western artists and designers influenced at the time by Japanese art, fashion and aesthetics. Tissot had a revival of his Catholic faith, which led him to spend the rest of his life making paintings about biblical events. Many of his artist friends were skeptical about his conversion, at a time when French artists were working in Impressionism, Pointillism, and heavy oil washes. Tissot was moving toward realism in his watercolors. To assist in his completion of biblical illustrations, Tissot traveled to the Middle East in 1886, 1889, and 1896 to make studies of the landscape and people. Tissot spent the last years of his life working on paintings of subjects from the Old Testament. As to all things there must be an end. Tissot died suddenly in Deux, France, on August 8, 1902, while living in the Château de Billon, a former abbey which he had inherited from his father in 1888. His grave is in the chapel, sited within the grounds of the chateau. In the first half of the 20th century, there was a rekindling of interest in his portraits of fashionable ladies, and some 50 years later, these were achieving record prices. There you have an overview of Tissot. There are many more interesting stories and works to learn about. You should look into Tissot, you won't be disappointed. Please subscribe to my channel for more interesting short history documentaries. Thanks for watching.